My childhood home has a terrifying haunted history. I even found out that the Ed and Lorraine Warren were at my home investigating. And if you don't know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are, they are very famous paranormal investigators. We're the ones that investigated and owned the Annabelle doll. I grew up in Connecticut, and my childhood home was always a very strange and disturbing place. My mother told me that while she was pregnant, she always felt very threatened in the home. She said that she would always see shadows following her around. There was a piano, and late at night the piano would play itself, and she swore to my dad that the house was haunted and she wanted him to move them out of there so badly. One of my favorite things to do was play with my little bucket and shovel kit, and I would just like obsessively dig. And my parents used to joke that I was trying to dig a hole to China. My parents literally described it as me being possessed. So years go by, my parents actually end up getting a divorce, so me and my mom end up moving out and into an apartment. And decades later, I end up in college, and I'm in a criminology class, and one of the professors is a former police officer. And one day while he's taking attendance, he looks down at my name and he looks at me and he says, is your father so-and-so? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's my dad. And his demeanor completely changes, and he looks at me and says, do you still live at the house on Coram Road? And I'm like, no, I haven't lived there ever since I was a little kid. And he said, oh, okay, I hope you know the history behind that house. And this man, I believe, is a very reputable person. He has no reason to make this up. But apparently years after I moved out with my mom, the paranormal activity at the home got more and more disturbing, to the point that Ed and Lorraine Warren were brought to the home. After an investigation of the home, found that buried on the property was a Native American artifact, and that the entire home was built on a Native American burial ground. I left that classroom that day absolutely shocked, and all I could think about was how, as a child, I would obsessively dig and dig in that backyard. Was I possessed? Did I know that something was buried there? I don't know, but that is truly one of the most terrifying and gut-wrenching things I've heard.
Not shitting you, this is the 7th time I've recorded this, and I've uploaded it 2 times and it doesn't exist. So maybe I'm not supposed to tell this story. I'm gonna try one more time. If this is not successful, we'll try another day. But as I've been saying in all my other videos, I have lived a very active life, paranormally active. And I grew up in a house with a mimic where several of my other family members also experienced that spirit. So I have maybe like 12 really good stories. But I mean, my grandma saw someone standing at the foot of her bed while she was sleeping. My mom had also experienced someone standing over her while she was trying to fall asleep but couldn't. My brother had seen a lot and heard a lot. I seen and heard a lot. My uncle had seen and heard things. Scratching under people's beds. I mean, whatever was in our house, we were constantly mistaking for either each other or it was a little demonic in nature. But I'm convinced this was a mimic. And the story I want to tell in particular is about a time where I was 16 and I was home alone, and it was very common, and it's very common in Black households for there to be an intergenerational setup in the house. So my uncle lived with us, my grandma, whoever else needed a place at the time, and my cousin, for the purposes and intents of this video, I'm going to call him my brother. But we lived downstairs together on either side of a hallway. Our house was on a hill, so the main living facilities, the living room, the kitchen, my grandma's room, all of the adults were upstairs. And you go downstairs, and there is a hallway on either side is his room and my room, and right in the center of the hallway, equidistant, is a back door. So this one particular night, I'm home alone, and it was very rare for me to be home alone. I was on the phone with my friend, and we had just gotten a puppy. This night, the dog seemed like she really wanted to pee, and I was on the phone with my friend, and I told my friend, hey, I'll call you back in a little bit. My dog needs to go outside. So I walked the dog outside, and just to describe things a little bit, because it's important to understand, there is a wooden patio on And I'm coming up on the end of this video, so unfortunately there's gonna have to be a part 2. Okay, so I talked for like 3 minutes without recording anything. I'm exhausted. But part 2, I went outside to take the dog on a pee break, and in the backyard, it's as soon as you step out, there's a wooden patio. There's 5 feet of patio in front of me, 5 feet of patio beside me, and outside of that radius is just grass. It's dark. Our backlight pretty much only lit up what was on the wood. So if you were outside of the wooden patio, you were in the dark. There was a lot of trees and bushes to hide in if anyone was interested, and I don't know. And after that, we had out at the perimeter of the backyard was the alley, and as I said, anybody could be hiding in the bushes, anything, coyotes. Because if you're in the alley, you could just scale the back gate and come right into the house. So I was standing on the edge of the patio to ensure that my puppy was okay, so she didn't get got by whatever was in the darkness. And suddenly, I noticed that she's looking to the left of her, and I hear at the top of the house the wooden back gate open up on the side of the house, and I hear my brother jumping down several wooden stairs. Now, the wooden stairs at the side of the house are there's about 20 of them. So, and I'm stuttering now because I'm really irritated because I told the story like 7 times, but there's 20 stairs and he's 14, so he's jumping down about every other stair, every third stair. So you hear like 7 don't, and that's how I always knew it was him, because he never ever walked up the stairs. He jumped up and he jumped down. So I hear him jumping down the stairs and running through the grass. I hear him and feel him run onto the wooden patio that I'm standing on, and I feel the wood depress with his footsteps. So I turn around and I'm like, hey, what are you doing sneaking out at night? You doing bad shit, and only I can do bad shit. What are you doing bad shit? I just wanted to fight, okay? I turned around and I wanted to argue with him because all we did was fight, and there was no one there. So I look back at the dog, and she's stiff. She's not moving. Her tail is straight down, as if she wanted it to be between her legs, but she didn't get the chance to put it between her legs. And I look back to my left, and I'm convinced that he's hiding, because I know I'm not alone. I feel that I'm not by myself. So I start walking into the grass, and I'm looking around into the bushes, and I'm calling out, so-and-so, where are you? Come out of the bushes and stop playing with me. Part 3. Okay, part 3, I'm sorry. Part 3. We made it. Okay, we made it. We're here. I'm standing in the backyard. I swear my brother is messing with me. I'm looking in the bushes. So-and-so, where are you at? I feel that I am not alone. So I look back at the dog in confusion, and she's still stiff. Suddenly it hits me. That little voice in my head says, go inside. Didn't have to tell me twice. I grabbed that dog so fast, I ran into the house, turned around, slammed the back door, ran down the hallway, went in my room, slammed that door. I'm in the bed. I got the dog on the bed with me. I pick up the phone. I FaceTime my friend, and I'm like, you are never going to believe what is happening right now, or what had just happened. And I noticed that Scrappy, the dog, is starting to act up a little weird. So I avert my attention from my phone, and I look at the dog, and she's standing on the edge of the bed. She's walking around the perimeter, every corner of the bed, walking around the perimeter, looking at the ground, and suddenly she's growling. She's still looking, following something on the floor, as if something's on the ground that she's following, but she won't get down. And then all of a sudden she darts up. She's looking at the ceiling. That way. She's screaming her little dog head off. She's barking everywhere, and her eyes are following something. She is barking at something all over the place, running back and forth on the bed, barking at everything. And I'm horrified. I'm on the phone with my friend. I'm like, whoa, hold on, friend. I don't know what's going on right now. My friend was like, hello? I'm like, look, I'm gonna call you back. I'm scared. I grab that dog, run in the bathroom. I lock myself in there until my family comes home. And now, I used to lie when I was a kid. And when my family came home, they believed me. Because there were things in the house that they themselves had experienced already that made my story, like, not far-fetched. I don't know what it was that night, but ever since then, from that night on, the goings-on in the house got so bad that we actually started to think that it was a demon in the house. And I can tell you why in another story. But yeah, that mimic was imitating everybody in the house. My grandma, we could hear her calling our names and banging on the wall in a particular way that only she would bang on the wall when she would try to call us for help if she needed anything upstairs. We were hearing each other's voices, all kinds of stuff. Okay? Let me know if you want to hear those stories too.
So when my mom told me this story, it gave me goosebumps. So my mom is a hospice nurse, and one night a few years ago she was on call, and she gets a call from one of the hospitals in town that says, hey, we got a patient, they just got the bad news from the doctor, and they want to be on hospice. My mom did her job. Okay, let them know I'll be there shortly. Probably take me about 10 minutes. So at the hospital was this woman, we'll call her Jane. She had just gotten told by the doctor, the bad news that she had terminal cancer, and she didn't have a whole lot longer to live. So while her family was there, they elected to go on hospice for the remaining time that she had left. So after they had made the decision as a family, her kids, everybody, they left. So Jane was kind of sitting there taking it all in while she was waiting for the hospice nurse. In this moment, a woman walks in her room, and Jane's kind of looking up like, who the hell are you? And this woman introduces herself and says, hi, my name's Betty. I'm your neighbor. I've been your neighbor for the last couple days here in the hospital. I'm just in the room down the hall. And I heard the bad news. So I just wanted to come in and say, is there anything I can do for you to let you know that it's going to be okay? And Jane was like, what do you mean you heard how did you hear the bad news? And she was kind of taken aback by this. And she's talking to me and she goes, no, I'm okay. I think I just need some time. The hospice nurse is coming. I'm going to just take some time to myself. So this woman comes to her and goes, okay, okay, sweetie, we're in the Midwest. Okay, sweetie, if you need anything, let me know. And so instead of turning around and leaving the room, Betty turns and walks into the bathroom of Jane's room and shuts the door. And Jane was just kind of shocked, like, what is happening here? And literally, probably 60 seconds after that happened, my mom got there. She came and she knocked on the door. Hi, I'm the hospice nurse. Do you have a minute to talk? And Jane was kind of like, yeah, I guess. So my mom, she's been a nurse for a really long time, and so she sees like this hesitation on Jane's face, and she can hear it in her voice, and she's like, is there something on your mind? Do you want to say something? And Jane was kind of like, so my neighbor, Betty, just came in and, was really sweet, really a nice lady, but she just went into the bathroom and she's still in there. My mom was like, oh, okay. How long has she been in there? And Jane was like a minute or so, but I can't, I don't hear anything. I don't hear, what's going on. So my mom is trying to be very polite. Obviously, this is a situation where Betty doesn't need to be there. And, my mom's been in healthcare for a long time. She thought maybe Betty might have a little dementia or something. So she walks over to the bathroom door and she knocks, and there's no answer. And she knocks again and she says, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm with hospice. I'm going to open the door. So then she goes to open the door and there's nobody in there. So then, my mom says to Jane, gosh, there's nobody in here. And Jane's like, kind of wigged out. Obviously, she's like, I had a conversation with her. Like, I'm not sleeping. I'm not groggy. She was in there. And so, my mom was like, okay, well, let's, he just had a traumatic, thing happen. It's a lot going on. Let's kind of get going. We'll talk through this, and maybe I'll go check on Betty, and maybe she slipped out at some point when you didn't see her. So they finished the paperwork, because of course it's healthcare, there's paperwork for everything. So they finished the paperwork. My mom says, they finished chatting, and my mom says, okay, well, I'll go check on Betty and we'll be with them. And Jane's like, okay, thank you for coming. So my mom leaves and walks over to the room that Betty said she was from, and she looks in and there's nobody in there. So then she walks down to the nurse's station to report off, I guess, what she had done, and kind of keep in communication with the nurses. And as she's reporting to the nurses, she tells them, hey, Jane said Betty kind of came in her room right before I got there, and I can't find her in her room now, so I just want to make sure that, if she has dementia or something, she's not lost somewhere, so somebody could just make sure she's okay. And I'll never forget my mom's face when she told me this part. She said the nurse looks at her and goes, "What?" So my mom goes, "Betty, I just want to make sure she's okay. She was in," and recants the story. And the nurse looks at her and goes, "Betty died this morning, like 12 hours ago. Betty's not there. Betty was not in her room." And of course, my mom was shooketh by this. My mom is not a storyteller. She's not she's a spiritual person, but she's not a big into the paranormal. So this really took her back. She was pretty freaked out by this. But yeah, that when she told me the story, like I said, I know her. She doesn't make up stories. She doesn't make this stuff up. So when she was telling me this, like, I got goosebumps. I'm like, that is creepy.
So something is happening to me, and I think there's something in my house, and it is absolutely terrifying. And I know I'm going to sound absolutely insane right now, and that's fine. But first of all, I need to ask you guys a question. Does anybody else see images in their head when they close their eyes? And I'm not talking about imagining the images. I'm talking about actually seeing things. Things of people doing things, just things of maybe places, destinations. This has been happening to me for a couple of years now, and I never recognize the situations that are happening. And I always wonder to myself, am I seeing like the future? But it's never been that way. I've never seen something and then it actually happened. At least I don't think. The images aren't super clear. So the scary part is, number one, I just recently started to be able to see myself doing things. And what scares me about this is you don't have a mirror in front of yourself every single day, right? So you don't know what you look like when you're doing something at all times. But I will close my eyes and I will see myself doing something that I have done before, and I'll remember that time. I didn't have a mirror in front of me at the time, so there's no way for me to know what I looked like when I was doing it, but I'll watch exactly what I was doing, even stuff that I didn't remember that will jog my memory. Okay, so last night, this part is the worst. Last night, I go to bed, I close my eyes, and I start to see myself. And I see myself putting on this red bathing suit that I put on a long time ago. I remember me putting on this red bathing suit. And normally, like I said, I see blue and white. I could see the red very clearly. And I'm like thinking to myself, this is so weird. This is really starting to freak me out. When suddenly I start to see something form behind me. And it's this woman. And she has like this crinkled, crimped, crazy hair. She's very old looking, but she has wrinkles that come to like a point right here that are prominent. And she has these huge eyes, and there's black in the middle, and then they're very white on the outside. And she's starting to form behind me, and then she was just standing there staring at myself, the same self that I'm looking at myself, not looking at me. And I'm starting to freak out at this point. And then she slowly turns her head and looks right at me and just starts to smile. And the smile gets so big, and then her face starts to get closer and closer and closer to mine until I opened my eyes and just freaked out. So after this happens, I take my eye mask off and I'm sitting up in bed and I'm freaking out at this point. And I have actually been sleeping with the TV on because it's hard for me to sleep with silence because I always hear this humming sound. Those of you who know, you know. And I am just sitting there and I'm like, you have to go back to sleep. It's so late. It's so late because I'm working so much right now. So I finally just am like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to sleep. I'm going to force myself not to have these little visions, or I'm going to try to. So I go back to sleep. I go to close my eyes, and then I just feel a boom at the end of my bed, like someone literally just boom slapped the end of my bed. Now it's become impossible for me to sleep, so I have to get up at this point because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to sleep. So I got up and I went downstairs and I grabbed like a snack or something, and I went back upstairs. Mind you, I'm by myself and in my apartment, and I sit down on my bed, and suddenly I hear this scratching noise in my wall. It sounds like there's mice in my wall. And at a point, I'm like, is there mice in my wall? I live in Brooklyn, but I live in a fairly decent apartment. There shouldn't be mice. I've never had a problem with mice before, but I'm just hearing this, and then it's like slow. So I'm like, there's no way. No, mice don't do that. So I literally say, what the, out loud. And as soon as I said that, it stopped. I was up for another 2 hours. Nothing else happens. And I had to go to bed. So at this point, I'm like, I gotta take like melatonin or something. So I take the melatonin, I go to lay down, and I close my eyes, and I'm starting to drift off a little bit. And then I'm woken up. I don't know by what, like fully woken up now. And my eyes are still closed. And suddenly I start to see in my eyes are closed. I see two people trying to climb on my bed, and one of them is that woman, and their arms are like going like this as they're trying to climb on my bed, but they look like they're trying to climb on my bed, but something is holding them back, like almost like there's an invisible force that is holding them back from climbing on my bed, and their arms are just going like this, and their bodies are moving like this, and they're like clawing at my bed. One was a man and one was a woman, and I was so focused on the woman because she freaks me out so much that I couldn't even tell you what the other one looked like. I just was paying, the arms were like in my peripheral. I can't say that word. And I was like, you know what? I'm not getting sleep tonight. So what do you guys think this is? Is this stress? But if it is, how am I seeing myself exactly as is without knowing what I looked like when I did what I was doing? Do you get what I'm saying? And it can't be stress because I've seen these things before. I've seen these, you guys know that I have closed my eyes and I've seen, it might be the same woman. If you guys have ever watched my stories before, I've seen a woman when I've closed my eyes before crawl underneath my mirror, and it could be the same woman, but I'm not positive, and I don't know what's going on, and I'm by myself. Does this happen to anybody else? That's what I want to know. Does anyone else see these vision things? Does this happen to anyone? Am I the only one? I know I'm not the only one because I asked you guys in a live before, and you guys have said that you've seen images when you close your eyes. But is ever this descriptive? And the creepiest part was me watching myself and then watching that person form behind me. Like, was she watching me in real life during that time? And I was just seeing what was really going on in a different realm with my eyes. When I'm like, while I'm sitting here right now, is there a woman behind me? It literally gives me chills. So please tell me what you guys think, because I am freaking out a little bit. I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know if this has happened to you before, and I would love any suggestions.
I'm gonna tell you a scary story about something that happened at work today. So I'm a nanny. I nanny for a little boy. He's 3 years old. And over the weekend, I also nannied. Spent the night at their house while his parents were out of town. And I had noticed, I nanny in his house every single day. Okay, this is where I work. It's where I basically live. And I noticed over the weekend that I was having this really weird feeling when I was walking around the house. Like that feeling like something's behind you, like, ooh, spooked. I had never really felt that way in this house, but recently I've been kind of getting a vibe. And over the weekend, for sure, as I was walking around, I was like, I just don't feel super comfortable here. So today I go to work, and the little boy that I nanny is sleeping. He wakes up, but he's playing happily in his bed, okay? He likes to play for a little bit. All of a sudden, he starts screaming, crying, bloody murder. He's cowering in his bed. So I go up the stairs and I open the door and I said, buddy, what's wrong? What happened? You got upset all of a sudden. And he said, there's something behind the chair. And there's a rocking chair in his room. I went over there and I looked and I was like, there's nothing behind here. He said, yes, there was a foot. There was a foot sticking out from behind the rocking chair. And I immediately got all the goosebumps because I was like, I knew it. Freaking knew something was in this house. Anyway, I told it to leave under my breath, and I let him know that he was safe. And then later, go upstairs, I put him down, I'm trying to put him down for his nap, and he starts to whimper and cower in the corner. And I was like, buddy, what's wrong? And he was like, I'm scared to go to sleep. He like goes like this, and he put his blanket over his face, and he was looking, and he was like, I'm afraid I'm gonna see the foot again. And I was like, oh no, honey, you're never gonna see that foot ever again. I told it to get out. I swear this stuff always happens to me.
My house is haunted, and last night some real spooky stuff happened. Also, don't mind the background music. We are trying to keep homegirl entertained over here. Say hi! So ever since moving into this house, my husband and I have experienced like extreme paranormal activity, and then our family, our friends, whoever comes to visit us also experiences paranormal activity. And ever since having our daughter, she is 9 months old, we experienced a very large amount of paranormal activity in her bedroom. So you know where I'm going with this. The last few videos that I've been posting have actually been like about my daughter and about her bedroom and about all of the paranormal and weird, creepy, spooky things that we have been experiencing in her bedroom. So I'm putting my daughter to bed last night and she had a really hard time falling asleep. She's currently sick. She's on antibiotics. So it actually took a good amount of time to get her to fall asleep last night. Every time I'd put her down, she would just cry. She needed me to pick her up and console her. Exhibit A. So she ended up falling asleep maybe 3 or 4 hours. I go in around 11 and I walk in the bedroom because I have the monitor. I can hear her crying. I was planning on just giving her her pacifier and letting her fall back asleep. I walk in and the first thing you see in her bedroom when you walk in is the rocking chair and then her crib is like off to the side. I walk in, open the door, the rocking chair is moving. Like it is in motion, it is rocking. And she's just literally, so my daughter can sit up now in her crib, so she's sitting up and she's just crying and she's literally sitting up in the direction of the rocking chair. The rocking chair is rocking and I'm like, oh hell no. So I pick her up and I give her her pacifier and I'm just like walking around the house with her because I'm like too scared to put her back in her bedroom, and we do have a bassinet that she's too big for, so I'm all about safe sleep. I very strongly considered moving her into the bassinet and I didn't, just because I have major postpartum anxiety and that just wasn't it for me. Anyways, an hour later, I bring her back into her bedroom. The rocking chair is not moving anymore. I lay her down and she slept until about 3 a.m. where she woke up again, but nothing spooky happened that time.
My house is haunted and I had the weirdest thing ever happen last night. So if you've seen my videos or if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen that ever since moving into my house, we have had really weird, spooky, creepy stuff happen. So one of the weird, creepy, spooky things that has really picked up ever since living in this house is I have had insane dreams, and all of these dreams that I have had, literally all of them, have come true. So you might know where I'm going with this. I had a dream last night, and the last dream that I had sort of related to this came true. So the dream that I had before last night was a woman walked out of my daughter's bedroom while I was pregnant, came into my bedroom and told me I was having a baby girl. And at the time, I didn't know what I was having, and my husband and I were convinced it was a boy. So last night, my daughter's sleeping in her bedroom. She is 9 months old. She's sleeping in her crib. And here's how the dream goes. I'm sleeping, and in my dream, I can see myself sleeping. I can see my bedroom. It's almost like if you're playing a video game and like you're watching everything like unfold. I'm watching myself sleep, and all of a sudden in my dream, my baby starts crying, and I don't get up. My husband doesn't get up. My vision switches, so now I can see in her bedroom, and in her bedroom, her crib is directly across from a window, and so in the window is this little boy just watching her like cry / sleep. And what's really weird is my house is kind of like high up, so this would either have to be a very tall, slender man ass boy, or he's floating. Okay, so weird, because obviously I don't have a son, don't have a boy, all that jazz. So anyways, my vision is in my daughter's bedroom, like watching this boy watch my daughter, and I'm like, oh hell no, like that's weird. So I wake up my husband and I'm like, there's someone in Gia's room. And he was like, what? And I was like, well, there's someone outside of Gia's room, like go in her bedroom and see if there's a boy there. So still, this is the dream. He gets up, gets out of bed, goes to check on my daughter, and the boy is there. So he also is like, hell no. So he grabs my daughter and brings her back into bed with us. He sets her down, and I'm holding her now, and she's like still crying, and he walks back into her room to see if the boy is still there, and the boy is still there. So my husband's like, I'm gonna go outside and see if I can talk to him. So my husband goes outside, boy is gone, no boy in sight. So I don't really know what to make of this. I've never had a dream like this before. So you all heard it here first. When / if I ever have another baby and it is a boy, I think that's like what this might be. Or this is like her guardian angel. I don't really know. I don't really know where this is going. Like, what do you guys think?
My husband just went camping and he came home and told me about this really creepy, messed up story. We live in Michigan, so we don't live anywhere super duper remote, but my husband goes camping in the sticks. Drive 4 hours, you park, you put your boat in the water, you drive the boat across the river, and then you get to your campsite. So it's a lot of work and it's very far off the beaten path. While he's there, he gets absolutely zero cell service, so like pretty spooky, right? Like reminds me of the basic plot in a horror movie. So anyways, he's camping with friends and the day goes, they have a great time, nighttime comes. My husband usually sleeps in a hammock, not my thing, but it started raining. So him and his friends, they pitched a tent and they're in the tent and they kept hearing this really weird noise. He said it sounded like a very large animal. And like, we don't have too many large animals like where he's camping. Could have been a bear, could have been. But he said that it sounded like it kept getting closer to the tent, and then when it sounded like it was about 10 feet away, he said it sounded to them like it was like circling the tent, and they were like, oh hell no. So they started making really loud noises to try and scare off whatever animal it was, and they have like a lantern that they keep in the tent, and he said all of them had their phones out, all of them had the flashlights on the phones going, and when they turned off the flashlights on their phone, they kept the lantern going in the middle of the tent. And it's like a battery powered one. It's not going to catch a fire. But what he said was like literally wild was the second they all turned off their phones, they literally heard the animal stop. Like it just stopped. And so they were like, oh, maybe the light is like attracting it. So they turned off the like lantern that was in the center. They said they could still see like in front of them and everything, but obviously if they like exited the tent, it was pretty dark. So he said that as soon as they turned everything off, it got really, really quiet, and all of a sudden his friend was like, whoa, don't touch me. And they were like, what are you talking about? So nobody could really figure out what happened. The friend was like, dude, somebody just touched me. They were all like, no, I didn't. Like, grab my shoulder. They were like, no, that didn't happen. And they all turn their little phone flashlights back on, turn on the lantern back in the center of the tent, and they all three of them swear on everything that they saw a hand like push into the tent, like on the side. And they were like, absolutely not.
I grew up in a haunted house from when I was 9 to 19, but the activity just got so much worse when I was pregnant. And I don't know if it was just like, it couldn't have been just me because we all kind of experienced it. There was one time when my mom had left already, and she would always leave like around 9 to go to her Zumba class. And so I already knew like her whole routine. So I heard her telling me that she was leaving, and I was like, all right, bye. So I get out of bed, go down the hall to the restroom. I locked the door, and then I heard somebody walking back in through the front door, which there was like a wall that was divided. And so I heard how they unlocked the door, walked all across the living room into my mom's bathroom, and then they switched the light on. So, I'm thinking it's her. I was like, hey, what did you forget? Or, what happened? Didn't hear anything. So I come out of the bathroom and she was like nowhere to be found. So then I start freaking out, like, okay, that wasn't my mom. Then like, what was it? So then I call her and she's like already like down the street. But like the door was locked. There was nothing, like nobody had came into the house, right? So then I go into her room and sure enough, the bathroom light was on, which she says that she turned it off. So then I start to notice that most of the weird things that happen are somewhere either in the hallway or in that bathroom. Because another time I like got up in the morning, went to go pee, and so we had this like small mirror that was kind of in front of the toilet. So I'm like looking up, and then I just see that it said, don't be sad, but in Spanish. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, who wrote that? But it looked like it had been, so like whenever you shower and the whole bathroom gets all steamy and then, you write in the mirror, that's what it looked like. But no one had showered yet because I had just gotten up. And like the rest of the bathroom wasn't steamy or anything. It was just that mirror. So I don't know. Maybe it was the old lady that was there. Well, not the old lady, but like the old lady spirit. And she just knew that I was like going through it at the time and she wanted to make me feel a little better. But those were some of the most like lighthearted ones, I guess you could say, because there were other things that happened that were a little bit more like scary. But whatever was there for sure did not like my daughter's dad. He was the only one that was actually, like, I guess, harmed during all of this because they knew that he was a bad person and wanted to get him out of the house. But other than that, there were people that were more sensitive to these things that did not want to go inside. Like, I have he's like my cousin, I think, and they all came over for a cookout, and he stayed in the car the whole time because he was like, absolutely not, I'm not going in there. And I mean, I get it, that shit was scary, but I guess I got used to living with him. And so that's why now when everything's happened here, like, sometimes I'll just see somebody like walking past me and it's like nothing, like, okay, hey. And there's a lot more, so I'll just have to remember them and talk to my brother because he also did get to experience a lot of that. And sometimes we'll just sit around and talk about all of our scary stories. So part 2 about the haunted house. Let's talk about the story of how the evil entities or whatever really weren't that evil because they were trying to get my daughter's dad out of the house. So this one time we were arguing about something in my room, and then we heard, it was like one of my daughter's toys that started like lighting up and singing. Like, we both just kind of looked at it like, okay. So he starts making jokes saying that the ghosts are going to get me and that he's going to go shower and leave me in there with the ghost. He runs out of the room, turns the light off, and he came back like not even like 5 minutes later, and he's freaking out. So he says that he was washing his body and started to feel like his chest and his back were burning. Whenever he looked, he actually had like scratches. And so he had like 3 like big scratches like across his chest. And then on his back, it was like going up and down, but it was also like actual cuts. So I'm laughing now because, bitch, why are you trying to scare me? But now the demon son got you in the shower. So a couple years ago, I'm talking to my dad, and I don't know how this conversation came up, but I said something like, oh, I wonder, what happened in that bathroom, or why, like, whatever entity was there, why it attached itself to that bathroom. And he decides to tell me that the person that was living in that house before, I think she had a brother that was staying there for a while. And he went into the bathroom one morning to get ready for work. And so he ended up dying in there. I'm sure there's a lot more things that happened in there because the energy was just, it's so off. Like, even now, I haven't lived there for 10 years. And I still have dreams that take place in that house. But the scariest part is that most of them do come true. So I already know that if I have a dream that takes place anywhere in that house or in the backyard, it's most likely going to happen in real life.